Discussion and debate. Building an argument. Unit 2. Task A. Read and discuss. Listen to the reading and follow along in your textbook. The reading introduces the topic and some of the key ideas you will need to develop your argument. As you listen, think about your own views on the topic.
Social media platforms have become a central part of how we get and share information. However, the rise of misinformation on these platforms has sparked a debate on the need for regulation to prevent the spread of false information. Misleading information posted to social media can spread like wildfire, reaching large audiences quickly and easily. One solution is the introduction of laws to require social media companies to moderate content to stop the flow of misinformation. Strong platform policies and fact-checking may protect users from fake news. Increased censorship could make social media platforms a reliable source of information. On the other hand, some argue that regulation could infringe on the right to free speech. Too much control over what is posted could lead to the suppression of opinions and ideas, keeping people in the dark about different perspectives. For example, excessive regulation might prevent the sharing of valid alternative health viewpoints, limiting public access to diverse medical opinions. It could also result in the removal of politically diverse viewpoints, hindering a balanced and comprehensive understanding of complex issues. Perhaps users should think critically about what they read, instead of relying on platform policies to determine for themselves what is true. As the influence of social media continues to grow, the balance between preventing misinformation and preserving free speech remains an issue.
Task B. Comprehension check. Consider each question and use information from the reading to develop your response. Think about how these ideas could be used to support either side of the argument. Task C. Vocabulary building. Complete the vocabulary activity. Pay attention to how each word or phrase is used, as you will be encouraged to use this vocabulary when you present your argument. Now check your answers. Task D. Useful idioms. Complete the idiom activity and check the meaning of each expression. Consider whether any of these expressions could be used naturally in your argument. Now check your answers. Then take the vocabulary and idioms quiz. Task E. Discussion language. Study the discussion language and complete the activity. Practice using these expressions to help you structure and communicate your argument clearly. Task F. For and against. Listen to both model arguments and follow along in your textbook. Notice how each speaker states a position, develops reasons, introduces evidence, and uses the language from the unit. Consider which arguments you find most convincing.
The widespread circulation of online misinformation has become a major challenge, making stronger regulation of social media platforms increasingly necessary. False information can reach millions of users within hours and influence public opinion before its accuracy is questioned. This is particularly dangerous during elections, national emergencies, and other events when people depend on information to make decisions. Organizational analysis report data from the European Commission in 2024 emphasized greater transparency and accountability for online platforms, including measures to address harmful and illegal content. Consequently, stronger regulation will likely encourage platforms to improve content moderation and take responsibility for what they allow to circulate. The effects of misinformation also extend beyond individual posts. Repeated exposure to fabricated stories can weaken public trust in institutions, such as governments, health agencies, and universities, leaving people unsure which sources deserve their confidence. Misleading stories can then spread like wildfire, creating confusion and increasing divisions between groups. Effective regulation should therefore require greater accountability from social media companies while protecting legitimate differences of opinion. Stronger regulation can help create a more trustworthy online environment without preventing open and informed debate.
Calls for stricter regulation of social media are understandable, but greater government control is not necessarily the best solution. Stricter rules may lead to unnecessary censorship, preventing legitimate opinions from being shared and weakening free speech. Organizational Analysis Report data from UNESCO in 2023 warned that poorly designed regulation of digital platforms can weaken civic space and restrict freedom of expression. As a result of stricter platform policies, we may see users become skeptical of online moderation and less willing to express their views freely. Another concern is that regulation could encourage people to depend on governments or platforms to decide what information they should trust. Individuals should instead fact-check questionable content using reliable news sources and develop skills to judge information for themselves. Education provides a lasting solution by teaching people how to identify unreliable claims, compare sources, and recognize manipulation. These skills can help users respond to new forms of misinformation without restricting what others are allowed to say. Rather than jumping on the bandwagon of stricter regulation, governments and technology companies should promote media literacy and personal responsibility. Giving people the ability to evaluate information independently offers a more sustainable defense against misinformation while protecting freedom of expression.
Task G. Comprehension check. Answer the questions about the model arguments. Identify the speaker's positions and evidence, and practice challenging one of their points. This will help prepare you for the rebuttal task later. Task H. Springboard. Read the quotation and consider how it relates to the topic. Introduce the quote and explain what it demonstrates. Consider whether the quotation could be used to support your own argument. Task I. Exploring evidence. Complete the evidence activity. Each unit introduces a different type of supporting evidence. Consider how this type of evidence can make an argument more convincing and how you could use it in your own argument. Now check your answers. Then take the evidence type quiz. Task J, supporting an argument. Develop a reason for your position and support it using the type of evidence introduced in this unit. This will give you practice connecting a reason with relevant supporting evidence. Task K, gathering data. Study the infographic and identify information that could support either side of the argument. Consider which facts or data would be most useful for supporting your own position. Task L, building an argument. Now bring together what you have learned throughout the unit. Choose whether you are for or against the discussion statement. Use the Building an Argument page to state your position and develop 3 clear reasons, supported with relevant evidence. Use the evidence type introduced in this unit once in your argument, and identify your sources by giving the author or source title and the date. Where appropriate, try to incorporate the discussion language, vocabulary, and idioms you learned in the unit. When you have completed your notes, use them to record your spoken argument and post your recording to the Spoken Argument Forum. Do not simply read your notes, use them to help you explain your argument naturally. Finally, listen to another student's argument. Choose one point they made and record a rebuttal explaining why you disagree. Thank you for your efforts this week. See you in the next lesson.